Well, I did a video on Lele Pons, so this is the only logical conclusion, isn't it? There's something about these Vine star Instagram people that really fascinate me, especially since even though I do like one or two Vine people here or there, more of after the fact because I never went on Vine and I never went on Instagram and I don't have an account on either. I'm not sure what exactly it is that's fun about talking about these people, but oh yeah, actually I do. It's because everyone hates them already, so it's easy and it is fun to just deconstruct, but there's something else. Maybe I'll figure it out someday. So if you don't know who this charlatan with an oddly clothing-related last name is, I think it's pretty obvious with what I've already said. She's one of those sort of, all humor revolves around cheating, stock sound effect here, basic bitch clickbait humor people that are currently staining the internet, for lack of a better term. Which brings me to the question of why I'm bothering with this then. Well, remember how last time I brought up Lele being in all these sort of childish high school videos, trying to preserve the image of being a young child? Well, I specifically started to look into that because of Hannah, actually, and just had my sights set on other people at the time, so I moved the video back. Today we're doing a really deep dive, well a deep dive as far as I can stomach going, into the idea of Hannah wanting the image of being a child and holding on to the high school years. Get ready to become nihilistic if you're not already. So this video is what you'd expect right off the bat. Wait, no, I'll test that. Why don't you take a look at the first few seconds of this video and also the screenshot and the title here to write down a prediction in the comments of what you thought it was, and then afterwards you can either leave another comment or edit to see how you went after you see our analyzing of the video. It'll be a fun little game, and we can do that for the next video we're analyzing as well. I'll give you a couple seconds to pause the video and head to it if you feel like it. Go! I hope you've locked in your answer. So this video is about a school, obviously, doing a run, or the mile specifically, and it's got a bunch of characters in, you know, the everyone knows these kids in school type of relatability. And the problem that I have with most of these sort of relatable comedians is a lot of their content is just, it's such a reach, because no one's like that. And you don't really relate at all because there is no one like that. I understand exaggeration is in play with a lot of humor when it comes to relatability, but really it becomes a point where if the thing that you're trying to relate to does not exist in the first place, or it's an incredible reach, then no amount of exaggeration is going to make it funny in that regard because there is nothing there that I can actually hold on to laugh at. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe I just have a weird sense of humor. I don't know. But of course, Hannah's part in this is always being the sort of everyman character. The super relatable everyman who has to deal with all of this stuff in being the place of the audience. But there's no place of realism for this joke to really begin. But don't just take my word for it, let's take a look. So it opens with everyone kind of being stereotypical, I guess. The joke about someone being sick and not bringing a note is kind of weird because, okay, I understand the idea. The kid who obviously isn't ill but has a note gets to sit out, but the kid who is obviously sick that doesn't have a note has to do it. But they just keep coming back to this guy after the joke, which isn't really funny to begin with, and it just makes the point that the video is trying to make very strange, because there's not really much of a point afterwards. You know, it's like, oh, it's the joke, but then like, oh, look back at the same joke, and it's like, what are you adding to it now? I think that's the main thing about this video that confuses me. It's just the idea of these people having an idea and then like stretching out the concept so much and repeating it because they have nothing else to do and they want filler in the video that I end up not understanding what's going on. I mean, I guess there isn't really anything to understand, and I guess I should pride myself on not being able to understand it, because when it comes to a thing where you have to bash your head in on the wall until you have severe concussion to actually understand the warped sense of humor that these people have, I think this is a sign that you're normal if you're not laughing. Again, maybe that's just me. So there's also this other kid who I don't really understand, and I don't mean it in a, oh, I just don't understand why this is funny kind of way. I mean it in a generally do not understand what the fuck is going on in general here, and they don't come back to this, so I have no idea why. Like, okay, look at this.
Berkey! Hey, can we just hurry up so we don't have to do anything?
So they're saying, let's do nothing after the mile, or are they saying let's do nothing instead of doing the mile? Because saying that isn't gonna persuade the teacher who wants to make you do the mile because that's part of the school curriculum and their subjects, so I don't get it. Why is this here? You could easily cut this out and actually the video wouldn't be better because it's already shit. So there's like a really bland joke here about the try-hard who pushes themselves. Plus there's this girl who doesn't try and all of that sort of general stuff. Now, what I will say is there are those people just in life in general, so I'm not giving the video points to that purely because it's so easy that if you fucked it up, that I would actually give the video points because they would have reached a level of retardation that was previously not seen on the face of the planet since those people who made the Death Note movie. What's weird to me is that they started off with being sort of exaggerated with their portrayal of these people, but then gradually just dropped any pretense of that exaggeration with the connection to what's real or what's the center of the joke is, and I'm not sure why. It kind of just spun out of control. Like, they were like, well, we can't think of anything else wacky for these characters to do, so let's just like add in random crap. Oh no, wait, that's what happened. So Hannah starts going insane and sees mirages and hallucinations from the exhaustion, even though they don't really have much to do with the situation she's in. They're just like random like assets from one of those crappy mobile games. Like, she thought, hey, let's put a hallucination scene here, but then she didn't actually understand how to relate the joke to it, so she just put in a stock hallucination scene. That's one of the things that you'll see with a lot of these people on the trending page of YouTube and pretty much anywhere else. Most of the stuff is just like Microsoft clip art as the equivalent of comedy. Actually, that's the alternate title to this video. Hannah stalking is the Microsoft clip art of comedy. Also, there's this part where this guy tries to escape and the gym teacher thinks that he has the power to expel the guy even though he's just the gym teacher by saying expellation, which one, isn't a word, and two, sounds like a Harry Potter spell for getting rid of constipation. Also, why is this guy just running away to escape running? You're probably going to run more trying to escape than just running the mile. Fucking what? It's like shooting yourself in the head to avoid dying. So after all of this, the fat kid who isn't actually fat, am I the only one who just thinks he looks like a normal kid? Like, sure, he's not an athlete, but most people aren't. I mean, couldn't they get a kid who was like fatter? I mean, in the next video, she's with that Supreme Patty guy and he could lose a few pounds, in my opinion. So why not just use him? Why are they fat shaming this guy? But the fat kid is like, oh, we were only supposed to do one lap? And then the teacher is like, okay, everyone has to do it again. And that's how it ends. One, that doesn't really make any sense. And two, wouldn't the fat guy be the one to repeat the lap because he's the one who didn't actually do the whole thing but everyone else did? Three, if the girl who didn't try to run and just walked by drinking various things still passed the class, then why did they all just not walk around too? There are so many jokes that don't add up, and even if she didn't pass, why didn't they explicitly kind of show, hey, none of these people passed? They just kind of look like the fat kid is the one who damaged everything for everyone, and it just makes no sense. And Hannah, being the supposedly everyman relatable figure of this video, doesn't really do anything that I can relate to. I mean, I rephrase that, not me, but like people in general, because I know that I'm not really the one who's supposed to relate to this. I mean, one, I never brought my gym stuff for any gym class in high school, and since it wasn't technically mandatory in my school, they couldn't technically do anything about it, so they tried to put me in detention a couple times and I just didn't do it. So I mean, there's me, but the majority of people who actually tried, it doesn't relate to them either, I'm pretty sure, because I knew people like that in high school and I don't think they did anything like this. Nothing that shows something fun or relatable. It's the thing where someone makes their jokes as bland as possible so that they pander to every possible person, but at the same time try to act like there's some substance to it so that people keep watching. Like BuzzFeed, actually. BuzzFeed Microsoft clip art. Shit. So now we're going to do the thing where I analyze it in the thing that I mentioned at the start of the video, talking about youth and trying to portray yourself as younger than you are, while your sanity is still intact. And before we begin with that, like I said to Lele Pons fans, just fucking chill out. I know what you're going to say already, and Hannah can always fix her fractured ego with some flex tape. So my point here is that Hannah is trying to do the one gif of Steve Buscemi doing the hello fellow children thing. Like, she's trying to portray a source of cathartic release for people in a particular problem. That's essentially what this type of humor is trying to do. In the same way that dark humor, which is my favorite type of humor by the way, is trying to relieve the tension that people have for things that are going wrong in the world, of very dark, tragic subjects, and human suffering in general. It is also trying to have the conversation begin in some way, trying to make the discussion not as taboo. But this type of humor is more trying to have a cathartic release for people going, I know, right? I'm not the only one who does that, or isn't it weird how that works? And it's the same sort of common connection to people. Instead of a direct coping mechanism against suffering, it's more of a just general human connection of humanity, trying to analyze the humor in a way. I hope that that makes sense. But see, the specific problem is that it fails. With this in mind, it doesn't make sense to me because she hasn't been in school for a really long time. It's okay once in a while to be like, hey, remember when you were in a high school and this happened? Or when I was in high school this happened, does this still happen? Or something like that. But the way that she phrases it is as if she is still in high school, which is very concerning. It's kind of like how Onision keeps putting more and more makeup on to make himself maintain that same image of boy band teenager while he's getting older and older and older, until it will one day reach the point where the new crop of 12-year-olds who are dumb enough to actually follow what he says will look at him and think that his Skeletor looking ass is so creepy that they won't actually want to pay attention to him anymore. And he knows this, so he's continuously doing more and more weird shit to try and reach towards that youthful point to try and get his audience. That's really what this is happening here, but I guess to a more narrowed degree, where it's specifically trying to hunt for the specific type of humor instead of just trying to find the image and the influence like Onision is doing. And again, since she hasn't been in school for a very long time, it's also this sort of thing where not only that, but it's also this sort of bizarre standpoint where nothing works like school actually works. And this is coming from someone who only left school like 2 years ago, so I'm not in high school either, but Jesus, even I know more about high school than her, and I hated high school. I was one of those kids who just ignored everyone, who was probably most likely to be a school shooter, did their best to just like be under the radar so that I could do whatever the fuck I wanted and teachers wouldn't try and call me out because they didn't even notice. As long as I passed class, I was fine. Is it the fact that they're knowing that their fans are kids, so they're just desperately trying to keep their audience by giving them the relevant pandering content to that particular demographic? Or is it just that they need to try and defeat the inevitable process of aging? I mean, I don't get it. I don't want to have to wait longer for the sweet release of death. But you know, it's whatever. You can tell that these people are painfully aware that there will come a time when no manner of cheerful attitude and makeup will hide the process of decay that every human being must undergo, that the only thing that will be left is the unsettling footage of an older person trying to disguise themselves as one of the younger, reliving faded memories of glory days as the eternal passage of time ticks with a sick thud, thud, thud of the heavy, cracked pendulum. Sorry, you get my point. Let's move on to the next video. Let's play our little guessing game again. Here's your title and screenshot. I'm just going to skip through the story beats to actually prove my point now because it isn't really necessary to try and deconstruct each thing. It's probably boring, but obviously, of course, here's your couple seconds to try and guess what's going on in the video. So, making the Olympics part of your week. So, to start off, there's this really vague description of an assessment that would never actually pass as an assessment at all, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm gonna make it a project. It's simple. It's simple. All you gotta do is make the Olympics part of your week and then come back and let us know how it goes.
So they're walking home and they pass their rival school gang in a scene where they're walking in the supposedly spooky scene, but the color grading is way off, so you have no idea. I mean, for example, I know that going over to that panel in Premiere Pro and just clicking on the color tab and dragging a couple lines across a grid is very hard and totally won't take you a couple seconds of time, but it'll work. But you know, it's just one of those things where if you want to be an entertainer and actually want to make your content worthwhile, there's this thing called effort. But really, I shouldn't be talking about this too much. I'm just nitpicking. I'm just one of those people who really wants to grab onto any single tiny point and complain about it. I mean, that's kind of why I started making videos, so I'll give it a pass. But then the rival school kids appear, and it's basically a ripoff of the relationship between schools in Riverdale, and I really didn't want to mention that because I hate Riverdale, but it's a ripoff of that. But then they battle? Two groups of kids about to fight like fucking idiots in high school do not say that they're gonna battle unless they're LARPing. No one says that. But this somehow becomes a series of mini Olympic things as a battle, but this is somehow... I don't get it. Like, obviously the entire thing is just to make a reference to the I hate assessments idea, and those kids from the other schools are rivals idea that isn't really a thing, but it's relating to those two concepts, right? But why put the Olympics in? That makes no sense whatsoever. Right off the top of my head, the laziest thing that I can think of is for a history assignment about war. Wouldn't that fit much better about the two jokes combined in one? Having war jokes about history class, getting the exaggerated death scenes of kids just falling over or doing kid stuff to exaggerate the joke of things meaning more to kids than when they really don't mean much at all. The thing about boring history class, the thing about vague assignments being that you don't know which date is which and which battle is which because it's all the same. I'm not funny either, but even in my scenario it makes more sense. There are so many more jokes. The fuck? So this is just another example of what I explained to really hammer home the evidence for my point. What universe does high school really work like this? What human finds this logical in any way enough to be funny? So now we reach the point where this is sort of miscellaneous. I want to quickly bring up like really lazy incorporations of brand deals and content to make money from sponsorships and pretending to make content while selling things to a younger audience, based on the idea that you need makeup to look good and putting that on will affect your life in a positive manner that you couldn't achieve on your own for children. A lot of this stuff reaches across to multiple sorts of topics and people on these websites. These are criteria that you need to have in order to be one of these people. The biggest thing being the need to hold on to your younger years and the need to have the biggest egos on the fucking planet. I just really wanted to make a couple of videos that allow me to get into the subject like I did just then, so make my statements on it and figure it out, so that in the future when I do stuff on other topics I can sort of refer back to these in a way that is more timely, so you don't have to hear this sort of stuff again, and I can have a place to refer to other ideas and expand on them. Like I said, since this is a new thing, it's fun, so whatever, but also I'm kind of building up my arguments like an essay, so to speak. If you want me to talk about something, just let me know either in the comments or on Twitter. And if you want to recommend something for ProcrastiCast, my podcast, just let me or my co-host Marzi know on Twitter, and we'll send ourselves into nihilistic insanity for your entertainment. Bye now.